So here's a huge puzzle for any company trying to be good to the planet. How do you actually find the people who want to buy environmentally friendly stuff? It's a massive question, and believe me, the answer is probably not what you're thinking.
Now, you'd think, right, that it's all about psychology. For years, marketers have been told that to find a green consumer, you have to get inside their head, understand their deep values, their worldview. It's all about what they believe, isn't it?
Well, a really fascinating study from 2017 put that exact idea to the test. And what they found, well, it turns out the truth might be way simpler and at the same time, much more specific than most people believe.
Okay, so to really get why this study was such a big deal, you got to understand the two main tools marketers use to figure us all out. It's this classic showdown, figuring out who you are versus why you buy.
All right, on one side, you've got demographics. That's the easy stuff, right? Your age, how much you make, your gender. Just the basic who. And on the other side, you've got psychographics. This is the really complex stuff. Your values, your attitudes, your whole lifestyle. This is the why. For years, the smart money and green marketing was all on psychographics.
So what was this study that kind of turned everything on its head? Well, it all centered on a really specific group, young shoppers in a major city in India. And trust me, focusing on this group is the key to the whole thing.
So they really zoomed in here. We're talking about 226 young consumers, all between 20 and 30 years old. And that's a really interesting mix of what we call Gen Y and Gen Z.
And just so we're all on the same page, what does that mean? Well, we're talking about folks who are right on that dividing line between Gen Y and Gen Z. Basically, you can think of them as this single, super tech-savvy and socially aware group, which, makes what the study found even more surprising. Okay, so the stage is set. In one corner, you have the simple facts, demographics, and the other, the complex feelings, psychographics. And the study basically threw them into a ring to see which one could actually predict who buys green.
What do you think? Who came out on top? Was it the deep, complicated why of their beliefs, their environmental concerns? Or was it the super simple, straightforward who, like their age and income?
And the result? It was a complete shocker. The simple who of demographics won, and it wasn't even close. I mean, basic facts about a person explained over 55% of their green buying habits. Meanwhile, all those complex values and beliefs, they barely managed to explain about 42%.
And it gets even weirder when you dig into the details. Turns out age and income were huge predictors, but gender? Nope, made no difference. And here is the real stunner. Perceived consumer effectiveness, that's the fancy term for believing your personal choices actually matter for the planet, that was also totally insignificant. Yeah. Think about that for a second. Whether or not someone believed they could make a difference had absolutely no bearing on whether they actually bought green stuff. The researchers themselves knew they'd stumbled onto something big. They even wrote in the paper that their findings were, and I'm quoting here, inconsistent with previous findings. In plain English, they were saying, hey, what we found here totally flies in the face of what everyone else thought. And they didn't stop there. This is where it gets really interesting. The study pushed this idea even further. They asked, okay, if simple demographics are so powerful, what happens if we get super, super specific? And that led them to a powerful strategy called niche segmentation.
So what is niche segmentation? Well, instead of just lumping all young people together, it's about slicing that group into these tiny, really precise little segments. The whole idea is that the 22-year-old version of you and the 28-year-old version of you, you're basically two completely different shoppers.
So that's exactly what the researchers did. They split their 20 to 30-year-old group into 4 little nests, as they called them, each one covering just 2 or 3 years. You had the 20 to 22-year-olds, the 23 to 25s, the 26 to 28s, and then the 29 and 30-year-olds. And what they found was just staggering. Get this, each of these tiny age groups was way more eco-conscious than the one right before it. So it wasn't this nice, smooth line of growing awareness. No, it was like a staircase. Every 2 or 3 year jump in age was a huge leap up to a completely different step of green behavior. Okay, so let's pull all this together. What's the big takeaway here?
What does this mean for anyone really who's trying to sell a sustainable product, or even just an idea?
All right, here are the big lessons. First, for this specific group, simple facts crushed complex feelings. Your age and your income said way more about your buying habits than all your deeply held environmental values. And second, treating youth as one big blob is a huge mistake. The difference between a 22-year-old and a 28-year-old is massive. Marketers have to get laser-focused. They have to get into the niches.
And that just leaves us with this one last kind of mind-bending thought. This whole study proves that even inside what looks like one single group of people, there are totally different tribes hiding in plain sight. So if a tiny 2-year age gap changes everything about how a person shops for the planet, it really makes you wonder, right? What other simple things do marketers totally misunderstand about you? And maybe more importantly, what do we misunderstand about ourselves?